Kalen DeBoer to now Colin Cowherd. Good morning, Colin. How are you?
I am great. I don't mind being your second best guest of the half hour or hour. I feel I'm honored to follow him.
Yeah,
Have you chatted with Kalen yet? Have you got a chance to meet him, Colin?
Well, no. I tried to get him on yesterday to schedule with the practice. So, these college coaches during the season, it's really, really hard to get them on. So I was getting them on Monday, but schedule my people are pursuing. But, I think, the Huskies, every time they get the right coach, Jim Owen, Don James, Neuheisel, Chris, and now Kalen, all of a sudden they're in the top 5, top 10. So it's a great time to be a Husky. Can
this be a perennial top 10, top 15 program?
Oh yeah, I've always thought Washington. Listen, I've always thought the only real obstacle to it. I mean, the financing, the money, the history, the tradition, it's all there. The state of Washington, gives you maybe 8 really, really nice players a year. California can give you another 12 to 15. And, it's let's be honest, the entire SEC basically recruits Florida and Georgia, not their home state. So if you have proximity I don't buy geographically isolated. I think it's an advantage. It's a longer flight to Seattle. The weather is colder and wetter for a lot of these, warmer Southern California schools. When I grew up, USC and UCLA hated playing in Seattle in October and November. So I think there's a lot of advantages. You have to have Sark. It wasn't quite ready to be a great coach yet, but he was a very good recruiter. But Oregon's program is based on Phil Knight and his checkbook, and they've done a terrific job and hit on several coaches. Washington's been winning forever. They've had some down times and missed on coaches, but generally those coaches don't last long, and the next coach they hire is very good. So to me, Washington's always been a top 12 program in the country, and if you are and can recruit near that level, then you can play, especially with a 12-team playoff. I'd be surprised if Washington isn't in it 3 out of 4 years.
You mentioned the SEC. Why isn't the SEC better?
Oh, I think it's simple. Everybody can buy players now. They did for 20 years through churches. Now everybody can write a check, and Washington's got more money than Tuscaloosa. So does Texas. It only took 2 years of the NIL. This sounds blunt, and it's crude, but everybody knew the SEC was buying players.
Did you say through churches? Did you say through churches, Colin?
Oh, that was always understood. And it was, I remember saying on the air before it happened, Ole Miss is buying players. I could tell you 2 stories on LSU about 10 years ago. Those are just the ones I hear, and I'm not from the South. So the beyond, and the reality is SEC football is so important to the region, nobody was really ratting on anybody, right? Whereas USC would rat on UCLA, or Oregon would rat on Oregon State or Washington. So, it's, and everybody, I said it on the air to Joel Klatt last week, and he was like, he just, like you, Brock, he didn't say much back. But I'm like, in 2 years, the SEC doesn't look better than everybody else. Now, what in the world would it be? For the last 18, previous to the last 2, they looked dominant. And now everybody looks just as good. What would it be? I watched Texas play Alabama. Texas had better players. I thought in the trenches, much better players. Why? Because Texas has more money. And and it's legal. So that's all it is now. And by the way, wait until Washington gets to Big Ten and Washington, Oregon, SC, Michigan. These are going to be massive television games. I was just talking to a Fox executive. I don't even think college football fans understand how great this is for Washington and Oregon. Oregon's had to wear 800 uniforms to get noticed, and Washington gets about 1 to 2 national TV games a year. Washington's going to have years where they get Michigan at home, Penn State on the road, Wisconsin at home, Oregon. They're going to have like 5 TV games that you could put in prime time as a network and be proud and get a number. It's such a win for Washington.
How big a win would it be for them to have a Heisman winner this year?
I think it matters, and I think it matters because that's the side of the ball. Kalen, he's the master at. And I listen, it felt like USC all year has been more concerned about the Heisman for Caleb than they have, football and tackling. So I think they lost the balance in the program. I think Washington, Kalen's known as a very humble guy. I think they're going about it the right way. They're doing it through production. And they'll start in about 2 to 3 weeks if Washington keeps winning. Then all of a sudden the media will pick it up. I would vote Penix Heisman winner today if I had a vote. So, and I think it's the right way. He played great in a big TV game. That matters. That's how Carson Palmer did it. Played, really great late. But, between the coach, the wide receiving crew, I don't know. I think Oregon, if they played Washington again, I think they'd be favored. I think Texas would be favored over Oklahoma again. But at Husky Stadium, in that moment, with that game plan, I thought Washington was the better team.
Does he remind you of anybody professionally, Colin? Penix?
Yeah, he's a bigger Tua. Bo Nix is Derek Carr. Decisive, accurate, limited arm strength. You can move the pocket with him, but he's not mobile. I thought he bailed too early on a couple of throws that were schemed out. I wish he would have waited a couple of beats. Penix is bigger, stronger Tua, better arm, power thrower a little bit. I thought he was much more impressive. I watched from the end zone second half, 40-yard line, 30-yard line first half. And when you watch the end zone and saw Michael standing in there, now, of course, the receivers are great, but McMillan didn't play. So if you saw him standing in there, waiting an extra beat, I was just talking to a GM in the NFL yesterday because he said, hey, give me your rundown. What do you think on Penix and Bo Nix? And I said, Penix will have the ability in the NFL to elevate others. I think Bo Nix will start, top of the second-round pick, and others will have to elevate him. But because the reality is this is why USC has not had, and Ohio State historically have not had a lot of successful NFL quarterbacks, because that's not the real life of an NFL quarterback. The real life is what Penix faced Saturday. Pressure, getting hit, standing in the pocket, having to throw up a sideline with a really good NFL corner on your really good NFL receiver. That's the real world. So Penix, to me, looks like a bigger, stronger Tua, and if he gets the right situation, I think he'll flourish.
So you were there? You were in the building?
Yeah. Well, I was on boats. I had cocktails. I was in the building. I met the new AD. There is just nothing. Is there anything better? And Brock, you've probably been to more stadiums now. I've been to 15, 20 of these kind of legendary stadiums. There is nothing better. Overcast day. You walk in the Husky Stadium. It's a big rival. The crowd was amazing. I love how they put the student body in the end zone. It's just so good. The stadium is so smartly built. And, what's funny is I watch Colorado and USC, and they've gotten their priorities out of order. I'd like a little less flash and a little more foundation. Washington has such an advantage. Their history, they're capitalized, they're well-moneyed, big money. But let's not undersell Chris Peterson in the building. Mm-hmm. To have this young, smart coach, Kalen, and then have Chris Peterson in the building, it doesn't happen like that. Usually the ex-coach is bitter. He's out golfing somewhere. He doesn't want to be part of the program. There's animosity. Peterson's like, oh, my God, he's cheering. He's on our network pumping his fist in the commercial breaks. To have Chris in the building, what an advantage. You don't see ex-Alabama coaches in the building rooting for Nick, or ex-USC coaches. I just think Washington. Now, there's going to be a bidding war to get Kalen here in about 2 or 3 years because he's going to be so high profile in the Big Ten. So all you Washington boosters, get your checkbook out because we got the guy. UW found the coach. Right side of the ball. Humble, not a ladder climber, but they're going to have to, at some point, to keep some of these coordinators and assistants. But I think Washington, the future.
Look at you, right? Colin. You just showed it, man. It took you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But did you hear that? Did you hear that we? I heard a we. Did you hear a we?
I think I heard a we.
I think I heard a we. We'll leave it at that. We will just leave it right
leave it.
at
Hold
that.
on. I got to ask one other question because we played the sound the other day. Did you issue an apology to Coach Carroll?
What?
Well, I thought I was too hard on him. I didn't think I was too hard on Baker Mayfield, and we've kind of made up. But I thought with Pete, what I said was with Pete Carroll is that I thought he was stunting Russell's growth. And in the end, he saw what we didn't. And now coaches often do that, but coaches also draft Tim Tebow in the first round, and Johnny Manziel, so coaches make mistakes. But I gave Pete credit for doing something that Belichick can't. Belichick can't make a singular pivot off Brady, not one. Pete is now on his fourth pivot with the Seahawks. Pre-Russ got to the playoffs. Russ, 2 Super Bowls. Old Russ, 1. And Geno, 1. This is his fourth pivot as the coach of the Seahawks. Belichick can't make a singular pivot in New England. Completely tone deaf to offense. They drafted 3 guards and 2 kickers as the slowest offense in the league. Completely tone deaf. And so I said, I think I was too hard on Pete. I think he is what he is doing now is really rare. Coaches that are rich and successful and have a ring and a legacy fall in love with themselves, and Pete just keeps reinventing himself, reinventing the Seahawks, reinventing their culture. And I was wrong. He was right. It's really rare that you find an older coach with success. Brock, look at the history of college. Woody, Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, they all age poorly. Joe Paterno, older Belichick now, Popovich in the NBA. They get stubborn. Not Pete. Pivot. And I was wrong.
I gotta learn how to be wrong like you. You are the best at it. Seriously. Nobody's wrong like you.
Nope.
And when it comes to humility, I'm also the best.
That's what I've always thought about you. Yes.
But all I know is
that's what I've always heard you say.
I didn't hear anything. All I heard was we. I just heard a we. So we are back. I appreciate that, Colin. A we with a big W.
Awesome.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks,
you.
Colin.
All right, guys. Love you.
There you go. There's Colin Cowherd. No one's wrong like Colin. What can I tell you? He's the best at it. All right.